Hello and welcome to the CFO Playbook podcast. I'm David McClelland. I'm a journalist and broadcaster. I cover technology and business with a special interest in startups. And here on the CFO Playbook podcast, we get under the skin of how world-class finance leaders from across various industries set goals, manage teams, leverage technology, plan for the future, and much, much more. And in today's episode, we're chatting about the challenges and opportunities of finance leadership in the creative sector with somebody who's spent more than 2 decades at its heart.
Finance leaders have to listen to creatives because they have great ideas. They are, they're always evolving. They're always thinking of new ways of solving problems. And we as finance leaders can really learn from them.
If you're listening to the CFO Playbook podcast for the first time, then welcome. Don't forget to subscribe, take a look through our extensive back catalogue, and it is very extensive now. And as many of you have, do leave us a rating or review. Right then, on with the show.
This episode of the CFO Playbook is brought to you by Soldo. Thousands of businesses from small to large corporations, including Mercedes-Benz, Sony, and Get Your Guide, use Soldo to make their business spending simple and efficient. To find out more or to book a demo, visit soldo.com.
Mehjabeen Patrick is a finance leader with more than 25 years of experience across finance, investment and leadership, a large part of which has been in the arts and creative space. Former Chief Finance and Investment Officer at Creative UK, now Director of Finance at Arts University Bournemouth, Mehjabeen's work lives at the intersection of finance and creativity. Now, finance and the creative arts have often been seen as uncomfortable bedfellows. For context, UK arts funding has been under severe pressure for many years. Arts Council budgets and grants have been strangled, cash-strapped councils are being forced to drop support for much-loved institutions, and even higher education funding to support the next generation of creative and performing talent is being held back. And yet, the UK is a global leader in the creative industries. In 2020, a government report revealed that the sector contributed £13.2 million to the economy every hour. And in an era of stagnation overall, the sector is growing at more than 5 times the national average. And that's not to mention the contribution to global culture made by UK artists and creatives. Mehjabeen, thank you for joining us here on the CFO Playbook podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Now, to the outsider, there seems to be something of a contradiction, perhaps, between this projection of the UK as this creative powerhouse and, in places anyway, some of the harsh financial realities faced by many artists and creatives. So as a finance leader working in the arts sector, do you see this friction? Is that something you experience? Or is it actually, when you're on the inside, a bit more nuanced than that?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit more nuanced, but I think it is fair to say that in spite of creative sector, UK creative sector being such a powerhouse, sort of actors within this sector, whether that is businesses, whether that is practitioners, whether that is new entrants who want to take art and creative sector as their practice, do face a lot of challenges. It is not easy to make your idea, your business work in this space. The lack of funding is a huge issue. But also the general perception we have within the finance community, within the investment community, whether that is traditional banks, whether that is private equity, whether that is venture capital. This perception that art and creative sector is risky, that it doesn't really add to the bottom line, and that is experimental somehow, and not really. They can't see it on paper how it is going to sort of bring that hockey stick growth they're looking for, or that bottom line. So yes, creatives and creative sector still face a lot of challenges when it comes to investment, finance, access to finance, but also having the right skills and the right exposure to manage getting investment into the business and then sort of making it work.
Yet you talk about risk there and this perception of risk, yet the numbers do speak for themselves that, whether it's $115, $120 billion contributed or, growing at 5 times the national growth average, which is an area that, the UK has been struggling in certainly over the last few years. So there does seem to be some evidence, some numbers to back up the risk versus reward side. Perhaps just chat us through your journey to where you are so far, Creative UK and now Arts University Bournemouth, and quite a few other interventions on the way there. What was your entry into arts? Was that something you had a passion for right from the beginning, that you set your sights on working in this sector? Or was there another entry into it for you?
I was into art and creativity, but I was also really strongly my skill set really pushed me into finance, into business. So that was my trade. That was my skill set that I honed in and perfected during my education and early career. And when I got to UK, before that I worked in a bank, and I always sort of brought in that sense of creativity, tackling financial issues with a bit of creative approach, bit of sort of collaborative approach. So when I came to UK, I worked with a couple of environmental organizations for a couple of years, and sort of in the back of my head wanted to really get into something that, challenges me and it gets me involved into creative sector. And that is when I joined Creative UK. It was a regional organization at that time called Southwest Green. And I was with that organization for 17 years, growing it from a smallish sort of regional organization supporting creative sector businesses and professionals in the Southwest to a national organization when I left it back in 2022.
So in terms of supporting then creatives, first of all, in the region, and then having a broader UK-based remit, what sort of support were you able to offer? Are you talking about distribution of government grants, business support, or investment support?
It was all of it, actually. Yeah, we started off with distributing government funds to fund actually early career or early entrance into film and television space. So script development, short filmmaking, sort of even low budget filmmaking. So we were distributing government money into that space. Alongside actually also providing a lot of business support, again funded by the regional governments in form of mentoring, coaching, workshops and all that. So that was the start of our journey into supporting creative sector. But I was very keen that actually there's a lot more we can do for creative sector. And at that time, there was sort of within our organization, and actually my experience of the sector was that there was a lot of reliance on grants and on public money. And as an organization, we were sort of raising public money. But it was sort of something that I really wanted to diverge from and do something different and bring in private sector, because I was seeing companies we were supporting really doing amazing things and growing and making money. And I wanted to grow the pot of money that was available to us to really support those companies and those artists. And public purses sort of, tight. There's only so much money that can go around. So we started looking outside the traditional, public sector sources that most of the creative sector, early stage creative sector, looks to. And that's when I brought in actually investment from a bank that was providing early stage loans and equity investment to creative businesses. And so it really took from there, and we became this hybrid organization that was bringing in public money, bringing in private money, and providing sort of hard cash to companies, providing grants as well as venture capital money, and providing business support. So it was that sort of mix of actually opening the exposure, opening the sort of door to show the private sector investors. We worked with individual investors, we worked with venture capitalists to show them that actually this sector is really powerful, and at that early stage when the risk is high and the investor appetite is really, really low, there are some nuggets that can be supported and will bring the benefit and the profit that private sector is looking for. And I used to use a mantra at that time that where others see risk, we see opportunity. Because we were very close to the sector. We knew, what makes a good creative business. We knew what are the early stage pitfalls that companies should look out for, how to find support. And because of that, we could really back some good ideas and good investments. And we used that to leverage private sector in to say, you trust us to find you deals that, are no more risky than the rest of the investment portfolio you had. And that sort of really worked. And the fund is flourishing and managing to support a lot of good creative companies.
That's fascinating. And I just want to see if there are some takeaways, maybe for early stage companies, finance leaders in early stage companies who are watching or listening right now, who maybe don't have the benefit of a Creative UK or a similar in the sector they work in. What can you do to try and inspire confidence or convince confidence for investment in an area, in a company or in a sector that might be perceived anyway as high risk? What tactics were you able to deploy in order to encourage that investment?
Yeah, I mean, the first of all, I think we were very authentic. I think authenticity is really, really important in anything anybody does, really. It speaks for itself. So we were very authentic, and with that came the transparency that we have, engaging with finance leaders, investors, being authentic about what you offer as a company, as a creative startup, and being transparent about where the gaps are in your business and where the strengths are. I think that is really, really important. I've sat on both sides. Sort of, I went out and raised money from private sector to put into our fund, and then invested that into creative sector. And I always look for business leaders within the creative space that sort of spoke the truth and really were, very authentic and passionate about what they were doing. But business leaders who were not trying to be everything to everyone, and were being truthful that actually they are passionate about what they're doing. They're really creative about what they're doing, but actually there are areas that they're not that good at, and that they can go and find the support. So, being honest with the investors, creative leaders are not, or not necessarily always so hot on business and so hot on finance, and that's okay. If business and finance is not your thing, get the people who will help you in that endeavor.
It's all about the team. Teamwork makes the dream work in any industry, let alone just the arts and creatives. So now at Arts University Bournemouth, after Creative UK, what does your work, your role there involve? And I'm curious what a what a typical, I don't know, day, week, month looks like for you, if typical is indeed a thing for you there?
I think it's fascinating being part of higher education, and especially I'm very fortunate to be working with Arts University Bournemouth because it combines the two things I'm really passionate about. I'm surrounded by creative students and creative people, and that is very, very fortunate position to be in. Changing that perception that, finance and creativity are two different things. And that, finance people can't understand or don't understand the creative sector. And actually, I see a lot of, there's a lot of truth in that perception. There are a lot of, finance leaders who don't think outside the traditional financial ways of sort of managing a finance function or managing investments or managing an organization. I think marrying creativity and the sort of financial skill is a very interesting space for me, and that is what I am looking forward to doing at Arts University Bournemouth. I think HE sector is facing a lot of challenges right now, and put the creative challenge on top of that, and really bringing my skills to sort of think of new ways in which we can tackle that challenges, bring the storytelling and the collaboration and the design thinking, because finance leaders usually think, oh, creatives have to listen to us because we know what we are doing. We are the business people. But actually, finance leaders have to listen to creatives because they have great ideas. They are, they're always evolving. They're always thinking of new ways of solving problems. And we as finance leaders can really learn from them. And that's what I'm looking forward to do, really take the challenges we have and bring the creative design thinking into it and tackle it in that way.
I really want to pull at some of the threads that you've shown there. The first one being that concept of value. Now, I think it might be tempting for some to think of the traditional CFO role as being about the gatekeeper, like you say, is about being about the numbers. And I know you feel very strongly that a modern CFO is about so much more than that. And I wonder if that's especially the case in the arts, in the creative sector. To what extent do you need to be creative as a CFO in order to really add value, as you put it, inside the creative art space?
You have to be really, really, alive to that fact that actually you can't just be a traditional CFO or a traditional finance leader. I think it's really important in the art and creative space to marry up the artistic value with the financial value and long-term sustainability of the finance. I think, and you have to be really, as I said earlier, awake to and sensitive to that fine balance. As a finance leader, of course, your prime responsibility is to make good financial decisions and to ensure the sustainability of the business. But that doesn't mean you ignore the artistic value of the business that you are and of that enterprise. And actually, you should never forget that the decision you make will impact the artistic value of that business. So having that in mind is really important. I think also, as I said earlier, very briefly, I think, speaking the language of the creatives as much as, asking or expecting them to speak some of the financial language is so important. In my 20-year career in the creative sector, I think it doesn't help trying to, just bang the drum that business finance is all that where it is. That's not true. Artists are very creative. They are very good at learning, absorbing, and being flexible because they are, they're imaginative people. It is in their psyche, in their DNA to imagine and come up with new ideas and new solutions. So really encouraging that and bringing that into your financial management and your financial strategy is so helpful, because artistic part of your business feels involved, feels engaged, and you as a finance leader benefit from that engagement, benefit from that creativity.
So how have you found that's gone in terms of that collaborative piece, bringing creatives into the room, inviting them into the room and engaging in conversation? Because I can guess maybe because of the perception of the finance director, CFO, that there is there's a barrier there, whether it's real or not, that needs to be broken down in order to facilitate a healthy collaboration.
I mean, it has gone on well enough for me, I would say. I don't know how other finance leaders in this space feel, but I've had really, good response in my last job. I was there for 17 years. I think I was always sort of, was always part of the creative conversation. I was not the last one to hear what is happening, what the plans are. That was because I was very open to collaboration and open to sort of bringing them in. So yes, that has happened for me in my career, and also it really helped when I was leading the investment fund for the creative sector. Over 8 years, we invested in over 1,000 creative companies. We supported even more than that. I got a really good sense of, creative leaders that were coming to us for investment. And actually, they understood where we were coming from. So we wanted to invest in them. We did invest in them, but we were expecting them to understand that this is not free money. This is not, I was talking about grant culture earlier. And I found that was quite, in the sort of, community that we worked with, there was a lot of expectation. We used to say there's no soft or hard money, money is money, and the perception of grants. So because of that collaboration, it took a year or so to really change the perception of people coming to us who were expecting grants and never to have to return that, or never worry about, revenues or profits or running, the success of their business. They came to us and they realized that actually, yes, we are getting this money. Yes, it is got more favorable terms, but it is money and we are expecting return and we are expecting business to be successful. So that really helped as well.
Show business is 2 words, and each of them has a good deal of weight in there as well. We see many industries being transformed by technology, whether that's cloud services, mobile working, now, maybe soon perhaps AI. But what about the arts in some areas of creative space, particularly VFX, video games and so on? Absolutely. But in other areas, there are processes that can be digitalized, of course, and in some mediums like film and TV, we see a lot of innovation around distribution, for example. But in theatre, in music, in galleries, a lot of that is still about the in-person experience, isn't it? That stuff hasn't fundamentally changed for decades, if not longer. So I'm curious as to where you see the opportunities for digital innovation in the arts space. What role can technology have in ensuring that there are opportunities for value to be created, for efficiencies to be found, or for new creativity to be discovered?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of opportunities, absolutely. And then, so I answer your question in 2 ways, really. I think there's a lot of opportunity for artists and for creative process itself. This is a hot topic out there about, for example, AI and its impact on creating and creative process, whether that is writing, whether that is creating art, whether that is sort of, graphics, or it's impact in a lot of areas. And actually, I have seen within the creative space, within creatives, that a lot of them are using it to enhance their creativity, enhance their creative process, rather than fear the technology and stay away from it, or sort of, be scared of it. I have seen some creatives, for example, writers who are using AI to just, help with the creative process, whether that is editing big, masses of text, or whether that is just getting some inspiration and some ideas, sort of on one scale. I actually had the pleasure of meeting at AUB a presenter, a writer, very openly, and talks about how she used AI during, her last book that she wrote in her favor. And that didn't diminish her creativity or took anything away, but it actually helped her speed up the process. So there are lots of ways in which AI can help creative process. There are other technologies. You mentioned, VFX and the virtual production, games, audience sort of experiences in AR, VR. There's technology everywhere in that space. But in sort of, other ways in which technology can support creative sector is, you talked about theatre and personal experience, and that hasn't changed. And I really hope that doesn't change, because personal experience, being there and actually absorbing the creative output, there's no replacement for that. But that doesn't mean there's no technology in that whole process. Whether it is theatre, whether that is a dance production, whether it is other sort of more live experiences. Behind the scene, there's a lot of technology that can make those things really more efficient, more easy, more effective. I've seen businesses that are innovating sort of, let's say, theatre production process, whether that is how do you sort of allocate various, sort of curate various parts of the process of producing, whether that is creating technological solutions to interact with various parts of a theatre production or putting a festival on. So there's technology that can and is helping the process of creation, the process of putting creative output out. But the creativity of the individual is still shining through, and on one side, and the experience of actually experiencing something in live, in person, is still there, and I hope long may it continue.
As we're recording, we are hot off the heels of the Eurovision Song Contest, and two things strike me there. The television production that the Swedish broadcaster put together for that was incredible, very digitally powered as well. And also that makes me think of going back to live performances and digital innovation there. The ABBA show that's been taking place in London, where you have the avatars. They aren't there. This is ABBA in their heyday performing to audiences, live audiences, who absolutely love it, are totally brought in. Their willing suspension of disbelief is at 10, at 11 or so, watching these holograms on stage. That is a really interesting application of technology into the live performance space, I think.
Absolutely. I haven't seen it myself, but you are right, spot on. A few of my colleagues have seen, and they say it's such an amazing experience. It's all around you, and you end up, feeling so touched and so moved with the whole performance. And, as you said, imagine having that with a digital performance, how incredible that is. And this is the beauty of creative sector, that we are, it's always thinking of new things, new ways of engaging with the audience, new ways of putting your output out, new ways of creating your output. And it's ever evolving. And I like that about the sector. It's not a standstill space.
And it's been fascinating to hear about your collaborative approach from a finance perspective to support those creative endeavours beyond just the, right, here's a checkbook, or we'll find you some money, or no, you can't have that right now, kind of thing. Really being part of that creative process and being creative yourself. It's fascinating. It's reassuring to hear as well. Now, your top pieces of advice for finance professionals who maybe maybe are already working in the arts sector, maybe they're not, but are looking to move into it and indeed make the move up to financial director or CFO. I'm curious as to what your top pieces of advice might be for them.
First of all, embrace artistic inspiration. That is so crucial. Draw on the inspiration from the creative process and artistic expression to really approach financial decision making with a fresh and imaginative eye. As financiers, we get stuck in our ways, and actually drawing from that creative process and bringing that inspiration into our financial decision making is huge. So please, as a finance leader, keep your eyes open, be involved in the creative process. And that sort of leads to encourage brainstorming and ideation, create opportunities for your finance team and the creative teams to come together to brainstorm. You will, as a finance leader, you're only going to get good benefit from it. On the other side, when you're communicating to creatives, use visual aids and storytelling. Why not? Nobody likes boring spreadsheets. Why do that? How you get to but the message you want to give is for you to worry about the spreadsheets. You want to give the message, give it in graphics, give it in use storytelling techniques, communicate the information in more creative and engaging ways. That's really, really important. I think, challenge traditional finance practices, explore unconventional approaches to finance is really important. And I think the artists around you will appreciate that and will really, like it. And, you build a really good bridge and build a good sort of rapport with them. And then experiment and take risks. That's what creatives do. They are experimenting every day. Every idea is an experiment. Every idea is a risk. As a creative, you create an idea. You don't know who's going to like it. You don't know whether, you may like it, but it may not, find an audience. So just take that inspiration and take risks and be experimented. Of course, in being a finance leader, it has to be a calculated risk, but be open. Incorporate design thinking. Very few finance leaders do that. And design is so crucial in all parts of our life. If you bring design thinking into our approach to stuff, things get much easier.
Yeah, I think design thinking might be something that we come back to on CFO Playbook. It's certainly not the first time it's been mentioned. So maybe we can talk about some case studies around that at some point in the future. Just to maybe just ask a question on the back of your pieces of advice there. I'm sure all CFOs love the industries that they work in, but do you find that having a sense of passion, of purpose for the arts has really helped you in your... Certainly chatting to you for the last 45 minutes or so, it seems as though there's a real spark, a real passion there. That really, really comes across. And I guess that just helps you get out of bed in the morning and really search for those creative solutions.
I feel so lucky to be, using the skills I have. I've got a finance brain, I've got a business skill, and being able to use that in the creative space. In a creative sector, I feel so lucky to be doing that. And yes, it gets me out of bed every day, knowing that actually I will be meeting creative people, and who knows what, good ideas I will come across, gets me out of bed every day. And actually, as I said earlier, taking inspiration and using that in my everyday work is absolutely amazing. And I've been in this space for, 20 years now, and I have not got bored. I have not lost my energy. I have not lost my passion. And that says it all. I think I would, before this, I worked in banking and I worked in climate change or sort of, energy sector. And I would never go back. And never leave, working in creative sector. The passion really helps. And it's so much fun. It really is. It's, being surrounded by creatives. In my workplace right now, I go in and I have beautiful art pieces to look at, and they change, and beautiful student shows and exhibitions. Every day something is happening, and that is a pleasure and a privilege. And yeah, the passion keeps me going, and actually the creative sector draws you in. Even if you're not passionate and you end up in creative sector, you become passionate. You can't deny the power that creativity and art has. Very few people can deny that. So I'm very fortunate to be working in this space.
Finally, Mehjabeen, something we ask every guest on the CFO Playbook podcast is what liberating finance means to them and how by doing so it might help us to accomplish more. So liberate finance, Mehjabeen, what does it mean to you?
I think it means to me tackling traditional finance practices for creative sector, really throwing the playbook out. We're on the CFO Playbook, and some parts of the CFO Playbook are old. And I think that is what means liberating finance. There are different and new ways of doing financial management that can be in tune with the creative process, that can be in tune with the users, whether you are in creative sector or not. You don't have to be in creative sector to think outside the box. I think liberating finance to me means being innovative, being open, thinking differently, telling the story differently, and engaging different audience. I was a very untraditional CFO from very early days. I'm not your traditional accountant, and I think we can, as finance leaders, we can do the nuts and bolts of finance, but we don't need to be stuck in the old ways.
Mehjabeen Patrick, thank you for joining us on the CFO Playbook, and indeed for inviting us to throw that playbook out of the window. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for having me. Really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you, David.